Hello everyone, welcome once again. In this session, we'll talk about how to prepare a communication plan and conduct a stakeholder analysis. What we have seen so far in our previous sessions, we prepare a project charter from the requirements that we had gathered from the customers, and we had prioritized those requirements also. We prepared a charter, and as part of a charter, we had put together a project team as well. And we also learned how to assign roles and responsibility in a project team to all the team members. That's what we have done so far. We are almost good to go. We're almost good to kick off or launch our project, but we still have few more important things to do. One of the most important things is to prepare a communication plan. What we are talking so far, all these things that we have been discussing, communication plan, stakeholder analysis, project charter, RACI diagram, they are from a typical point of view of project management. Now, they are not from Six Sigma point of view. The defined phase of Lean Six Sigma methodology, which is the DMAT, the first phase defined, focuses primarily on the project management aspects. It does not have any specific Six Sigma tools. They are all project management aspects because the defined phase focuses on launching the project, alignment with the stakeholder, and this is the same thing we do in all the projects. Six Sigma project or not a Six Sigma project, whichever project we do, defined phase deliverables will remain as it is, no changes, because this is a typical project management that has to be done. So as part of the same, we have a project charter now. We have prepared a RACI diagram also. So now we need to prepare a communication plan that will help us to track what is happening on the project. What are the different meetings that we are doing? Who all are attending those meetings? What are we discussing in those meetings? And where are the minutes of meeting that I can see? What are different reports that different reports from the meeting point of view? And are there any working sessions happening? Are there any workshops happening? And what are the key status reports that I have from the project point of view? So basically, I need to track the status of the project. So I need to prepare a detailed communication plan. So if you see in the slides, it talks about two things of a project, the what and the how part. So the what part of the communication plan that you can see on the slide focuses on who are the audiences that will make or break your success. The what part. What is their current position on this change, negative, neutral or positive? What do we want the position to be? Now this particular aspect that you see here, the opinion of the stakeholder, that will track as separately in the stakeholder analysis, but we want to know who the stakeholder are and we want to update them on a periodic basis. What does this audience already know about this change? What do they want to know about this change? What information might be inappropriate to communicate? This is very important. At times we do not know what to communicate to stakeholder at times, because Six Sigma project, as and when you move on, become very technical and we start communicating everything about what we are doing in the project, which may not be necessary. So we will need to know who are our audience. What do they want to know? How much should we tell them? And what should we not tell them? More than what we should tell them is important what we should not tell them. And that is something we must know. And at the end, from the what point of view of the communication planning, what kind of messages about the change effort do these audiences need to hear to build commitment for the effort? So everything that you read in the what part of this communication plan, we'll talk more in the stakeholder analysis part of view. But whatever we do in the stakeholder analysis is closely linked to the communication plan. That's why the communication plan and the stakeholder analysis, we try to talk together in the same part. Now the next part of the communication plan talks about the how part of it. How will we plan this entire communication? How do I target the audience? Or how do my targeted audience prefer to receive the communication? Do they want a newsletter, an email, or a meeting every month, or a weekly updates? What is the preferred mode? What kind of vehicles are available and appropriate for communicating? Vehicles here in terms of do they need a road show? Do they need an email? Do they need an town hall kind of communication? And what is the right way of communicating it? Because sometimes we try to talk about small milestones, small things in big meetings, or sometimes vice versa, where we talk about big things in small meetings. So we need to be very careful to choose our audience, to choose our place, to choose the right method of communication or right vehicle of communication. So we need to choose it very importantly: time, place, and the audience, and what are we communicating, what kind of messages we want to give. And then we talk about when and how often should we communicate. Again, very important: are we talking about daily, weekly, monthly updates? That's why the frequency is important. If the frequency is too late, if it's monthly or bi-monthly or 6 monthly, it becomes redundant, because people would have actually forgotten by the time we come up with a new update. So frequency is very, very important. Who will be accountable for writing, approving, and distributing communication? Now, that's very key part, because again the racy part comes in play here. When we are communicating any specific inputs about the process or project to any of the stakeholder, who is actually going to schedule those meetings, who will send the calendar invites, who will take notes in a meeting, who would review them, who will approve them, then who will put them together and send it to the wider audience, and who will store them for future reference if somebody wants to see. So who is that person? So this again is a part of the RACI diagram: roles and responsibility. Somebody needs to take care of these aspects. It's very important. Very simple thing, but hygiene part when it comes to project management. And at the end we talk about how am I going to measure the effectiveness of the communication. How will I know that I'm sending a lot of communications on different frequency, weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, month, and 6 monthly, but how do I know whether they are effective or not? Is there a feedback mechanism? Or do I go and check with people? So that again needs to be taken care. So communication plan is not something that I send an email and communication is done. It's actually more than that. And why we are talking about all these things? Because when you do a Six Sigma project, it is structured, detailed, disciplined. So this is a part of the discipline, where a simple thing like communication needs to be extremely disciplined to ensure that we do not miss out on the key aspects of the project, and we keep the key audience updated, and also we are communicating them the right thing. So that's about from the communication point of view. You can see on the slide a sample communication plan that we have prepared, where we have talked about the frequency, the audience, the mode of communication, and who will be working on it. So that's a sample communication plan that is prepared for each type of project here. When you have a communication plan ready, we also talk about the stakeholder management. However, now communication plan, stakeholder analysis, they are not a sequential activity. These activities run parallelly. You do a stakeholder analysis, along with you are also doing a communication plan as well. But we are talking here sequentially because we can talk sequentially. That's why we are talking sequentially. But the stakeholder analysis and communication plan, they are done right next to each other. When I say stakeholder management, that's very important plan for every project. If you look at the slide, it talks about identifying support required for your project. What does a stakeholder plan include? It talks about listing those affected by various project activities and outcomes, identifying whose support and commitment will be required. It tells us how do I analyze the key stakeholders to determine exactly how will they be affected, whether project outcome help them or hurt them, why they might resist, whether they will be supportive or not, and at the end we need to create a plan to gain their commitment from these stakeholders. If you look in this slide, it talks about how to involve those stakeholders. We need to hold a meeting of the key stakeholders at the start of the project to get their input, keep them informed of progress throughout the project. That's why we have a communication plan in place. Ensure that they approve of the solutions you intend implementing at the completion of the project. That's a very key point, that ensure that they approve of the solutions. We have just started the project. We don't have a solution right now. So that is where the stakeholder analysis or management comes in. If we know who are the key stakeholders who might be impacted directly and indirectly by the outcome or the change which is coming through this project, we can identify them. Right from the beginning of the project, we can start engaging them in our discussion at different levels, at different frequency, and so that when we finally start building the solutions, we can work with them to get the solution implemented. Otherwise, this becomes a big roadblock. We might need to understand who are against this project in the beginning, who are in support of our project, or who are neutral, so that people who are against it, how do we engage them, how do we plan for them, and throughout the project we keep them engaged and they're also in the support. So that's the planning. We need to know what kind of barriers these stakeholders might pose. We need to know it now, and what kind of contribution they need to make, they need to know it now. So this mutual understanding is very important, which is nothing but a stakeholder analysis. And wherever you think you cannot go beyond a certain roadblock posed by any stakeholder, use your champion or sponsor. That's the key role, is to take you through any challenge which you might face in terms of people, politics or influence issues. The sponsor will help you go through those challenges, will make you work with those tough stakeholders or tough customer you call them, and ensure that you have their buy-in. So they can also work with these stakeholders at their level. You don't have to take everything on your head. That's how different teams work together as part of the stakeholder analysis. So that's about the stakeholder analysis and the communication plan together that go hand in hand while we work on any project. This is about communication plan and stakeholder analysis. Thank you once again. This is Shivendra Sharma.